Hi, it's Kevin May, Editor-in-Chief of PhocusWire. I'm here with Olivier Grémillon. How are you doing?
I'm good.
So you are now, we have to mention this, you're now the VP of the Home Division at Booking.com.
That's correct.
How's the new job?
It's really good. So I started 4 months ago now, and it's been an amazing ride. I didn't know a lot of things about booking. I learned a lot in the past 4 months. Spending a lot of time with the team. I'm starting to travel next week. I've not traveled that much for the past few months, so it's been a wild ride. It's been great.
Okay, one of the things that always gets asked of people when they start a new job is, what was your agenda for the first 100 days? So you've now passed that.
Yeah.
You're 131 days or something like that.
Yeah.
So what was your agenda for those first 100 days?
So I split it in three, basically. The first 30 days was actually about having a lot of coffees and lunches with everybody. So I did that for quite some time. And the great thing is I started at the time where there is the internal company event. So I managed to see everybody from all over the world. So that was great. The second 30 days were around designing a little bit of the early strategy on what I want to do and how I'm going to do it. And the last 30 days were actually selling it to internally to different people in the company, the board, and whatever. So that's a little bit the way I split it the first 100 days.
Okay, when you say selling it, it's almost like you're having to persuade them, or not?
Not necessarily. Actually, the company is actually quite bullish about this sector, so it's a top priority for the company. But to some extent, they want to know a little bit what I'm planning to do, and also there is some coordination needed because it impacts a lot of other departments. So I would say evangelizing it maybe more than selling it if you want. So.
Okay, so when Gillian and Glenn interviewed you, presumably they were involved at some point. What was the biggest problem that they've asked you to solve? Being that this is a new role within Booking Holdings and Booking.com. So what's the problem that they've asked you to solve?
Yeah, that's a good question. So one is, the company wants to be the one-stop shop of accommodation, having like all types of accommodation, the widest selection possible, and obviously I fit very well into that, which is, how do we go from hotels to actually all these new property types? The thing is, we already have 5 million of non-hotel accommodations, like homes, apartments, unique places to stay. So the business is already quite big. And how do we actually speed that up and to make sure that we have every type of properties that the customers want all over the world. So that's one first step in our bigger vision, which is making sure that you can find everything on Booking as it relates to travel, from transportation to accommodation to attractions and experiences on the ground. So it's one of these first steps in actually going towards this longer vision.
Okay. And how long do you think it's going to take you to solve that problem?
It's never going to be solved. That's the thing. Right now we have like 28 million options for people to choose from between hotels and homes and apartments, but it's almost infinite, right? So the goal is to continue to have more. We are obviously stronger in some countries than we are in others, so there's a lot of work to be done to be able to bring online a lot of these properties, make sure that the customers can find them easily. So it's an indefinite task.
Is it therefore, because you're reeling out a lot of numbers there, million this and million that, is it for you and Booking.com a volume game rather than a quality game?
It's a little bit of both, which is if you believe that the customers want to find everything on the same platform, you need to have numbers. You need to have a lot of a type of accommodation. On the other hand, you need to actually have a quality and make sure that the customers can actually find what they want. So, it doesn't mean necessarily, it actually means like displaying it in a way that you can actually compare things. Obviously the review score, we have more than 150 million reviews on the platform. It helps you make a decision. If somebody has a 6.0 score versus a 9.7, that most likely you're going to have a better experience on the other side. So we manage quality by making sure we display as much data as possible, number of pictures, description of a place, reviews and all that stuff, to make sure that the customers can actually make a decision among the millions of opportunities we have for them.
Okay, so I mean, I would guess that you've seen quite a lot of changes in vacation rentals, private accommodation, as we call it here at Phocuswright, with in your previous job at Airbnb and now here. I mean, what do you think has been the single most significant development in private accommodation over the last few years?
So I think the first one was actually bringing a lot of this business online. You know, this existed far before Booking, Airbnb, and HomeAway, and Expedia, and all these guys.
Timeshares and things like that.
Yeah, like and people have been staying at other places for decades and centuries, right? So the first part was actually how do we bring that online, and a lot of the players actually did that. The ones I mentioned all contributed to that. The second piece was actually opening up people's primary residences, and to be honest, Airbnb did a great job there, making sure that you and me are actually comfortable renting out their place when they go on vacation. Obviously, now you can do that on HomeAway and Booking and other places. And the next step in my mind is actually how do we actually make that even bigger? It's a no-brainer whether you have a primary residence, you have a secondary residence, you have an apartment that you rent out all the time. How do we make it as easy as possible so that it's a no-brainer for you to do, even if you leave for a week or a weekend or something like that? And I think all of us still have quite a bit of work to do on that side.
Okay, I mean, admittedly this is before your time, so I'll forgive you if you say you won't answer, but villas.com was an interesting idea. So you did a lot of testing on a separate brand. What did you learn from doing that experiment, if we can call it an experiment?
Yeah, it was an amazing experiment because it failed. So what I mean by that is, the experiment.
How do you define the failure then?
So the failure, which was in the end a win, was like, do we think that people want to find private accommodation on a single platform, or do they want to actually discover everything at the same time? And one of the studies that Phocuswright did last year showing that 66% of people who actually end up booking an apartment or a home actually looked for a hotel as well, is actually the way to actually look at it, and why we actually ended up having everything on Booking is because people don't necessarily know upfront what kind of accommodation they want, or even if they have an ID, they might actually not book what they had as an ID. So you need to have all of these listings next to each other on the same platform, and having two platforms like we had between Booking.com and Villas was actually not a good idea. And the way we looked at it is because most of the bookings were happening on Booking.com, not on Villas.com. Right. And so really this value of having everything on the same platform is what the customers want.
It's just accommodation.
Yeah, on their accommodation
side. Whether it's a hotel, whether it's private or something like that. Was there anything else you learned through the villas.com experiment?
Well, the name, for instance, the domain name is amazing. Villas.com, it's a pretty good domain name, except when you have like apartments and other things, right? It's good for villas, but it's only part of a private accommodation market. So there were a lot of learnings, and that's an amazing thing about Booking is everything is an experiment, everything is being tested, everything there is like learning coming out of that, whether it's actually successful or not. And in this case, we wouldn't be where we are right now if we had not launched villas.com a few years ago, because we learned a lot about what actually matters to the customer.
Yeah, and you do have a fairly good domain name in booking.com.
It's pretty good too, yeah.
Right, okay. So two last points then. I mean, Booking Suite, which was this division that kind of came together within Booking.com because you bought 3 brands, I can think of 3 brands, because you wanted to offer business-to-business type services to hotels. Is there a suggestion or an idea that you will do the same for the private accommodation providers? Because there are specific kind of technology needs that they are looking for as well.
So I work a lot with the Booking Suite team in how we can actually help the connection between Booking, the distribution platform, but also others, and the owners of the accommodation. So obviously connectivity, channel managers, PMSs, API connection, all of that is very important in the sector, a lot in hotel, but also a lot in vacation rentals. The needs, some of them are the same, but some of them are actually quite different. So the tools that you need are not the same all the time as the hotels. So anything we can do around revenue management, channel manager, PMSs and whatever, Booking Suite is actually helping us to make sure, and they're helping the partners actually bring all of that online. So yeah.
Presumably if you saw technology vendors that had that, we would get into the lovely world of Booking Holdings acquisitions game again, maybe.
So it's one option. One option is actually if there is a good vendor out there that we could partner with, that's a good solution. Acquire them is a solution, or we can actually build our own stuff as well. We start to have quite a bit of knowledge into that.
Haven't you?
So all of that is fair game. We don't, as soon as we can reduce friction on the partner side through this technology, whether it's an acquisition or partnership, I'm pretty much indifferent, to be honest.
Okay, and last of all then, Olivier, I mean, it's a big portfolio. So there's Agoda as well, and then on the meta search side there's Kayak. I mean, and correct me if I'm wrong, what are they doing or they're not doing the same type of focus on vacation rentals or private accommodation as Booking is. So is the stuff that you're learning and doing within Booking going to be spread out in various ways around the empire?
Yeah, so there are some collaborations obviously between the different brands. Like you can, there are some experiments with flights from Kayak on the website, or there have been or through rental cars as well. You can actually book a ride, you can book a car. There are a lot of things that are happening on that side, and we exchange, some learnings as well between the different brands, and with Agoda because we're in the accommodation business as well. Yeah. So there are some learnings that go, and sometimes it's actually coming from Booking to Agoda. Sometimes actually coming from Agoda to Booking because they are mostly in Asia. We are very strong in Europe. And so the markets are quite different, and so we learn quite a bit from each other. We had a lovely discussion the other day about the model of instant booking, for instance.
That's another conversation.
That's another conversation entirely. We have a strong belief at Booking that having everything being instantly bookable, no fees, make it easy for the customer to actually discover and book very easily. Some other players actually have a different view, and it's actually useful to have this debate internally or externally, to be honest.
Okay. Olivier, thank you very much.
Thank you, Kevin.